Oh, it's working now.
I see Sarah! I see Barbie. I wish you had the Barbie chandelier. I think you do. Mom thinks you do.
You still have it.
It's somewhere deep buried then, because I have no idea where it's at. It looks so cozy. I love it.
Yay. It's my little corner, my little computer corner.
I like it. It looks a little bit better than mine is right now, for sure. I need to do some work on mine, but we'll do that once the house is established.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Like, I was thinking of doing a whole background that's like AstroTurf or something like that, and like making it up Jurassic Park themed.
That would be fun.
I think it would look really cute. I think it would look cool and cute all together.
Mm-hmm.
You got the lo-fi vibes going in the background. I love it. That's something we can talk about. There's too many bongo cat. Wait a minute. Wait a half a damn minute. Can I still Oh my God! Never mind. I was gonna bitch about the bongo cats. The bongo cats are about to save my fucking ass for real. Because now I can have this whole browser open to myself and still see you, even though I look like a really, really scary person because I'm really, really white.
You just have like the light blasting on you.
I do. Let me see if I can.
It's like you're the only thing that the light is hitting.
Yeah, it's just. Mm-hmm. Let me see if I can turn this down just a little bit. Oh, that's what I was going to banter about. Apparently the ADHD is with us today. My friend Sky found a game on Steam that works more like an app called Bongo Cat. So every time you type or you click, your cat on your little screen bongos, and it's just like a little overlay on your desktop. The way this cat got me through typing out all these notes in the last 2 days, because I'm just earning points to spend on crap.
That's so funny. I'm looking it up right now. Hold on a second.
It fucking changed my life, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, because I'm like, damn, I actually want to earn points and shit on this. And it's like, it has that little like cutesy like background stuff going too. So like you could dress your bongo cat up with like a hat and like clothes and certain like things. Like Sky's got a gummy bear on her head right now, and one of our other people in this group has a bard. Somebody has a witch's hat. My cat has a little like beretta on it, like barrette. Beretta is a type of gun. And yes, I do get confused. But yeah, no, it's
I learn something new every day.
It's a brand, I think. My mom's gonna get me for this. I know that, because she's like, oh, let me know when the episodes drop. I'll listen to them on the way home. I'm like, You're gonna hear me absolutely butcher French, Spanish, and apparently not know my gun logic, so I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
I'm in trouble when she gets home.
Gonna be raining down on you.
It will. It'll be raining hellfire on me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Cookie.
No, the bongo cat is absolutely adorable. And every time you type, click, or anything, he does a little like bongo gesture.
I've looked it up. It's adorable.
It is adorable.
But I can imagine that that's like really helpful when you have work to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just doing your tippy tappies on your laptop or your computer.
Yep.
And then there they are, just in the corner.
Just bongoing. Just chilling with you.
Whoever came up with it.
And you can have like
genius.
multiple, you can have up to 100 cats in a lobby with you, just bongoing away. So currently there's 5 bongo cats on my screen as we're reading this.
I guess there's also a webpage you can go to that's called Bongo Cat, and it's literally just the same animation of a cat, but with like some very hyper realistic bongos. And you can hit left and right.
Oh my God. I like that one too. I might have to find that for when I'm like having an ADHD moment.
That's so funny.
Like, I think that's what saved me, is that I'm like, yes, I'm earning a reward for typing. But yeah. Anyways, we've been gone for a while. Let me dodge the rocks that are incoming. Um, Life's been busy. Sarah's got a new job. I'm currently job hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So, scheduling wise for this podcast, we're going to try to get episodes out when we can. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm hoping to keep on a regular schedule, but as you've seen with us trying to come back, it's been a little rough. So, have patience with us. We still try to deliver what we can when we do our research. So, or at least get a good amount situated out there. I've got a story that's been waiting since September to be told.
Yay! Better late than never.
Better late than never. Right now, like, I'm currently in the process of finishing it up, so we're sitting at roughly 40 to 50 pages right now, just on the ground notes of this, and a little bit of the legend. Outside of that, like, she's long. She's pretty long-winded, so I'm thinking this is probably going to be about a 3-part series at the most. If we don't get going too hard on the supernatural at the end of it. But let's get started. While we understand that some individuals listen for the entertainment aspect of true crime, it's important to remember that these are real people with families and friends who may still be suffering from their loss. These stories are not meant to open old wounds or cause further emotional damage to those involved. We remind you to please be respectful and do not dox or contact those involved with cases. The cases discussed on this podcast may be disturbing to some listeners, and listener discretion is advised. All right. So this episode in particular, I don't think has a lot of trigger warnings, but we're going to go ahead and list them anyway because holy shit. So we've got some human trafficking, obviously, because this takes place in the 1800s. We've got a little bit of presumable sexual assault, domestic violence, and there are, unfortunately, children involved, but we'll get into that later. So, where we're at right now is New Orleans, Louisiana. And I'm going to tell you a little legend that goes around there. At 1140 Royal Street stands a quaint, old-fashioned house with stunning balconies and nearly 200 years of history residing in its walls. This was the home of Delphine and Louis Lalaurie. Delphine was the daughter of a prominent Creole family who married the young Dr. Lalaurie, a mousely and nondescript fellow who'd recently moved to New Orleans after completing medical school. Now, the Madame had been married twice before and had been made a widow both times. In the spring of 1832, rumors began to circle around the city, and a cloud covered the Lalaurie mansion. Rumors of slave abuse. Now, there were codes in place at that time that specifically forbid the torture, mutilation, and abuse of slaves. However, it did allow for punishments such as confinement, chaining, and whipping. So the rumors of slave abuse, it must have been bad indeed to incite those rumors. When questioned, the Madame Lalaurie, charm and beauty stirring doubt that anyone so lovely could be so cruel. With that, the whispers died down, and the Lalauries continued to entertain at their Royal Street home. In 1833, an unfortunate incident did occur. While the Madame Lalaurie's hair was being brushed by a young slave girl by the name of Nia, she hit a tangle in the Madame's hair and sent her into a rage. Grabbing her bullwhip, she began chasing the child through the house, shrieking like a madwoman. With the raging Madame close behind, Nia fled upstairs to the roof of the house. With the Madame close behind her, Nia lost her footing and fell to the courtyard below, body hitting with a dull thud. Witnesses claimed that the Madame just stared at the dead child for a moment before turning and retreating back into the house. Minutes later, silent shapes emerged from the house and dragged the broken body away. And that evening, the sound of a shovel could be heard digging a shallow grave near the well in the courtyard. And quiet sobs filled the night for the beloved daughter and grandchild. The incident was reported to the police, and the madame was taken to court for the abuse against her slave. The presiding judge, however, was a relative, and even though he didn't let her just leave, as New Orleans was watching, he did fine her $300 and remove the 10 slaves remaining in her care. It didn't take long for Madame Lalaurie to convince another relative to buy them back for her. There was no stopping the rumors after that horrible chain of events, though. The rumors circled that her gaunt and starved-looking slaves would be forced to serve her with their shirts off. This continued for men and women alike. The only slave in her group that was reputed to be glowing with health was her coach driver, Bastion, which, as he'd regularly appear in public with her, it wouldn't do any good to her character to have him looking unappealing. On April 10th of 1834, a woman was chained to a lit oven. Be it by accident or purposeful, she set fire to the Lalaurie mansion. The flames quickly consumed the kitchen, and it began making its way to the main house, devouring art and antiques alike. Neighbors and friends came rushing to the home to help and reported hearing screaming from the kitchen. A woman's face appeared in a window to the kitchen, screaming and shrieking, perhaps for help or revenge, as the woman is Nia's grandmother. A good Samaritan approached Madame Lalaurie, asking, "Where are the rest of the slaves?" To which she responded, "Never mind the slaves, save the valuables." Judge Canonjo, who lived nearby, approached Dr. Lalaurie, asking where are the other slaves, and was responded to with, "Mind your own business and get to the task at hand." Although, in some retellings of the legend, Dr. Lalaurie isn't even at the house at the time of the fire. It's only the madame. Someone in the crowd shouted that the slaves were in the attic, and firemen went racing upstairs to where they encountered large iron padlocks on the door, and the smoke was choking their every breath. When the firemen asked the madame where the key was, she simply said, "Never mind that, take this painting out." So they were forced to break the door down. Inside the room was a hellish scene that made the lower floors engulfed in the fire look like a walk in the park. These strong men, who were used to gore and carnage, backed out of the room, shaking and retching. Some couldn't stop themselves from vomiting. When the firemen at last calmed themselves, they and some of Lalaurie's neighbors re-entered the attic to save those who were discovered. Everywhere the firemen looked were chained slaves, some naked and nearly dead. The stench of fear, sweat, and human waste was stomach-turning. But what the firemen saw was much worse. All the slaves had been outrageously mutilated, abused, or starved. One woman had her skin peeled in a spiral around her body that resembled a microbe caterpillar. One man and woman appeared to have had a crudely performed sexual change. Her breasts were sloppily sewn to his chest, and his penis had been sewn to her crotch. Another man was chained to the wall and had a hole drilled into his head. Maggots were crawling in and out of the open wound. A woman had all of her bones broken into different angles that she resembled something of a nightmarish crab. When the doors opened, she scuttled to hide in a corner, shrieking out a hideous high-pitched barking sound as she did. On top of all that, there were buckets of body parts littered throughout the room. Several of the slaves perished when rescuers tried to move them, and others fainted from shock. One woman, blind with terror, jumped to her death from the window. From here, the slaves were taken to the Cabildo. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that, which is a massive building that served as a seat for the colonial government in Spanish New Orleans, and as a prison and slaveholding area for the American government. However, these slaves were not prisoners. They were taken there to protect them from the howling and unpredictable mob. They were first placed in the first level of the building in the slave holding cells. Local papers reported that more than 4,000 people went to see the, quote, poor wretches for themselves to witness the cruelty of the Lalauries that had been unleashed. Meanwhile, Madame Lalaurie had retreated to a portion of the house that was no longer in danger from the fire. Shortly after 6 p.m., her carriage arrived at the side door as it did every evening, and the Madame alighted for her evening ride as she always did. The crowd that had grown outside of the house was astonished and flabbergasted when she simply waved goodbye as the carriage rolled away.
That's so unhinged.
Right?
Just, goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Fucking Disney
Bye.
princess out the window, like cupping their hands.
Handkerchief, like,
Just goodbye.
oh no.
Oh no. So the rig rolled down
So twisted.
Right? The rig rolled down Canal Street toward Bayou Street. Bayou Street Jean, I think it's pronounced, which emptied into Lake Pontchartrain, where the elite Creole often took their air in the evenings. It was also the location of the boat launch to cross Pontchartrain. So, at the water's edge, Madame Lalaurie slipped from the carriage. Bastian exchanged the money with the boatman, and she boarded the pontoon boat. The mob, which had followed her, had just seen her board the boat and attacked and killed not only both of her horses, but chopped her carriage into splinters. The fate of Bastian is unknown, but you can make assumptions that it wasn't pleasant. On April 21st, 1834, the Lalauries were in Mendeville, safely across Pontchartrain. And from there, they made their way to France. Outraged by this, the angry mob returned to the house and began to dismantle it. Claims came from policemen and firefighters that stayed on the scene for 3 weeks to keep vandals from razing the house to the ground, that there were sounds of scratching and low moaning coming from the devastated building. From this, rumors of ghosts began to pour in and spread like wildfire. In the 1970s, renovations were started to divide the house into luxury apartments, when workers pulled up the floorboards to discover dozens of bones from people who'd been buried alive. Which explains the scratches and moans that had been heard nearly 140 years ago by police. Now, there are two different sides to the Madame's death. One is that she died amongst friends and family in 1842 in Paris, France. The other is that she was gorged by a boar during a hunt. Despite the damage inflicted to the house, it still stands to this day and has seen many historical uses. Most of its owners reported paranormal incidences and a variety of ghosts. One man claimed to see a man holding his own head in his hands. Another reported noises like a scuttling crab in the attic. Now, that was the legend. I hope you don't.
I was waiting for you to get through it. Yeah.
You're like, I hope you're not like,
was...
oh my God, that was horrible. And why did it take you so long? That's just the legend.
I know. I was waiting because I was like, oh, I'd love to comment on that, but I know it's like speculate, you know? And I was like, well, I can't be like, oh, it was disgusting walking into the room and smelling that. Like, I'd freak out. Like, no, because we don't know if that's real. But, or maybe we do.
I mean,
I don't know.
We'll get there. We'll definitely get there.
Time to learn.
I will say it's not like horror movie horrific, but for its time period and what you would expect out of it, I think it's a little bit more than most people expect when going into that. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it's still very, very horrifying, to say the least. But at this level, no. Like, I have it noted in here that it's very clear that at the time of us recording this episode, the Delphine Lalaurie story has more than 192 years of retellings, growing, change, and exaggeration upon it. How much is legend and how much is true? To answer that question, honestly, I don't even think we have the right story coming into this for most of it. Like, I did some hellish research, and I still feel like there's parts missing, and you're probably going to do the same thing too and be like, oh, wait a minute, Katie, that doesn't sound right. What happened during this time? And the only thing that I can point you to is to go read the book by Miss Carolyn Morrow Long, which is Madame Lalaurie, Mistress of a Haunted House. It's probably the one that goes deepest into detail regarding this and really works you through the process of everything. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and read that book to you, but if you're looking for further information, that's where I would go. So, we're going to dig into Madame Lalaurie's past, her marriages, and the scene leading up to the crime. So, buckle up. This is quite a wild one. And like I said, I'm not even sure how much is fact, fiction, fake, because it's been retold so many times and there's so many accounts. But we're going to try to give you the best retelling of this as we can with the facts that are present.
Well, a story like that lays the grounds for like a really good scary story.
It does. Like,
You know?
she really does fit the role that they're trying to fill for her, but it has been overly exaggerated throughout the years. So I get it. Like, it's still a good story, and I think the legend has its own place in New Orleans nowadays. That, yeah, it's cool to hear that retelling. But knowing what goes to the basis is something entirely different. And before we get into this, if you are looking for a tour in New Orleans to take, please go take the Streets of Sin tour. That's the one that I went on back in September. Our guide was amazing, and he made sure not to fill us with bullshit. So definitely go check them out. Great energy, great guy, great company.
I can't believe that was all the way back in September.
Right? Dude, life has been so busy lately, and I'm like, I can't get a fucking break, man.
I feel like it just happened. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, I've been dreaming about beignets since I got home. Like, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, a beignet sounds great. I'm like, oh, you're not in New Orleans. Go back to bed, Katie.
You can't just go wander the streets at night and get beignets and daiquiris. And I'm still thinking about those daiquiris. I'm like, oh, I'd love to just go get one. I've like even gone to like restaurants around here trying to like find something that'll fill the void. No, there is nothing around here.
Dude, I ordered, I think they're called Squashmos. It's like a cranberry vodka seltzer. Being back here, and I'm like, it doesn't taste the same. I don't know what they do to their alcohol down there, man. Something's different. They know how to do it.
Oh, it's good.
It's good.
I think so.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I am still just like, now I gotta find a reason to go back to New Orleans, or I gotta find a job today to go back to New Orleans. All right. Are we ready to dig into this lady's family history and a little bit of her background and her personal life and just blast it on the air, Sarah?
I think I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be.
Okay. So let's start with her actual family. Her family is the McCarty family, which was a clan that originated in Ireland. The family patriarchy, by legend, fled to France to escape the tyranny imposed by England's monarchy. They settled in the French province of Languedoc, entered the military service to the French king. 2 days after the McCartys relocated to Louisiana in the early colonial years. At this time, New Orleans had a very small population of roughly 4,800, which consisted of 200 soldiers and military officers, 900 white settlers and indentured servants, then roughly 3,659 African slaves, and some indigenous natives as well as free blacks.
So do you think it was true that the French government was like, if you marry a prostitute, we'll give you land in New Orleans?
Is that a rumor? I've never heard that.
Like over in France, yeah, at the time, they're like paying people. They're like, we'll give you like money and a plot of land if you marry a prostitute and move to New Orleans. Like,
that's wild. No, yeah. I didn't hear that. Maybe it is true.
I have no idea what that is, but I heard that at some point. It's like stuck with me. I'm like, I wonder if that's real.
You got me questioning now because I'm like, yeah. But then again, it's like, this is 1800s time era. Yeah. So we've got some establishments going over in the United States. And there's our 13 colonies, and then there's what's going on with Spain and France too, because they're in and out. So I think it might have just been natural migration, but I also feel like we'll get a little bit more into this. Like, yeah, it could have been something like that, because there is, like, we just recorded the numbers, there's only 900 white settlers at this time, so they're very undernumbered. The McCarty clan, though, when they came... Sorry. I digress, though. Oh. Let's get back to the McCarty clan. Okay.
Hold on a second. AI overview. Yes, in 1719, France, under the financier John Law, offered Parisian prisoners freedom if they married a woman labeled as a prostitute or vagrant and moved to the struggling Louisiana colony.
That's wild.
1719, baby. It was a wild time.
That's wild. That is actually wild. Okay. All right. Anyways, I digress. We're getting back over to the McCarty clan because it's large, wealthy, and socially very, very powerful. Both men and women relatives owned and managed extensive real estate, as well as numerous slaves. In addition, men and women were connected to other influential families by marriages. The family boasted a mayor, a governor, 3 cavaliers of the French crown, as well as a ousted Irish nobility member, several slave traders of the time, and then some of these women in this group are the most gracious and renowned hostesses of the 18th century in New Orleans. So we've got quite an eccentric bunch here with the McCarty clan. Barthélemy Louis de McCarty married Madame Marie Gianna Lovable and began to form their own family in New Orleans. They had 2 sons, Jean-Baptiste Francis and Barthélemy Louis. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced those names. We're trying here. And they also had one uncommonly beautiful daughter, Marie Delphine McCarty. Marie Delphine McCarty was born on March 19th of 1787. However, the baptismal record wasn't entered into the sacramental registry until December 26th of 1793. This may have been a private baptism in order to avoid illness or death at such a young age. Now, the McCarty's main house would have been a typical French Louisiana colonial manor house. Usually had raised basements designed to survive the flooding that happens there pretty regularly. The family would live on the main floor with the living and sleeping rooms that opened into breezy galleries and a half story with a dormer windows, which were located at the upper ample hipped roof. So we got a main story and then there's a second story. That's basically what that's saying. The kitchen quarters for domestic servants would be attached to a service wing in a separate building. Functional outbuildings and cabins provided further housing for servants. The plantation was located north of the city, and the house was in the Vieux Carré, which is the French Quarter, and we'll call it that from here on out, which was located in the growing Faubourg Sainte-Marie suburb. In the summer of 1796, the first big outbreak of yellow fever hit New Orleans. So if you're unfamiliar with what yellow fever is, it is a viral disease spread by infected mosquitoes, which in its more severe cases will cause yellowing of the skin, liver damage, and kidney problems. In order to treat yellow fever at this age, harsh drugs and bloodletting, as well as sweating, were used for treatment. During this outbreak, the wealthier families would sequester themselves to their plantations while still hosting parties with their neighbors and friends, simply avoiding the more infected areas or the outbreak areas in the city. Another notable thing from the McCarty family was the interracial children from men who were unable to find white women to marry. This isn't uncommon due to the lower population of whites in New Orleans in the area at the time. There were many men who were interracially wed or had interracial children. So these women could have been slave persons of color or free persons of color. Additionally, there are children of mixed race listed in the McCarty family baptismal record. So keep that in mind moving forward. As a child, Delphine appeared to be very happy, sociable, and neighbors told of her gracious visits to their own plantations. The McCarty plantation was a popular spot for dignitaries and dispositions visiting the blossoming New Orleans. Delphine would have been introduced to many people of higher stature, which would give her plenty of practice to refine her manners and her charm. Also, being a member of elite society, she would have been taught to read and write, with a bulk of education which most likely consisted of music, art lessons, and etiquette. She likely would have learned the art of running the house from her mother as well. If there were any tales or hints of Delphine having a dark future in her childhood, like abuse for that matter, it would have been very, very well hidden. However, if we look back into some of our older cases, such as Elizabeth Bathory, she may have seen something similar to Elizabeth, where it's like you see public executions or you see your father or maybe somebody else on the plantation abusing a slave. And for example, you see terrible things over a course of time. Eventually, you might think that's okay to do, or you don't understand where that line gets drawn. So let's get into the marriages with Delphine McCarty. Don Ramon Lopez y Angelo de la Candelaria was an officer of the Spanish crown arriving in Louisiana in 1799 to take the position of intendant, making him second in command to the governor, representative of the royal treasury, and he had jurisdiction in police matters, justice, and war. On July 7th of 1799, Lopez and his wife at the time, Viora, as well as 4 servants and equipment, began their travel to New Orleans for him to accept this position. During the voyage, sickness took the ship, and unfortunately, it also took his wife, who he'd regularly referred to as being his soul. And by late 1799, Lopez arrived in New Orleans, a grief-stricken and broken man. Creole girls at the time would usually be introduced at society at an age of like 15 years old and were usually wed off by the ages of 16 to 17 years old. Now, you might have picked up another book if you were in New Orleans, or if you're looking into this case yourself, by the name of Madame Lalaurie by Victoria Love and Lorlie Shannon. And I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. They do mention in their telling of this that Delphine wasn't married until 24, as her aunts were basically waiting for her to have a perfect match to her beauty. I do want to mention that after reading Madame Lalaurie, Mistress of a Haunted House, I am inclined to lean more towards the Madame Lalaurie, Mistress of a Haunted House's references, as Carolyn Marlowe Long actually did go through church records of Delphine's marriages to cite them properly. So, just as a heads up, because you might be like, no, she was 24. No. So, when Delphine and Lopez began their relationship, there were some complications that caused a bit of drama. Primarily, the young Delphine's love affair with the new attendant. The great urgency to wed led some individuals to believe that she was pregnant, but there is no indication or documentation that Delphine was with child at the time of the wedding or had a child with her within the first year of that marriage. Lopez was believed to have married Delphine as a way to avert scandal, and he applied to be wed on April 25th of 1800, citing her wealth and familial position, as well as their connection to the former Spanish governor. Now, this is important as Lopez cannot get married without the approval of the Spanish crown, and at the time, he does not have the approval. In June of 1800, Lopez approached the bishop at St. Louis Cathedral to perform the ceremony, citing that the relationship caused disputes with her parents, which led to separation between spouses of a predominant family, as well as a need to be an honorable man. The bishop was reluctant to agree to perform the ceremony. It was a private ceremony, though, when he relented, at the McCarty plantation on June 11th of 1800, and it was recorded in the Sacramental Registry of St. Louis Cathedral by Pastor Pierre Antoine. The official report given to support their marriage was to end a dispute within an honorable family. Regardless, at barely 14 years old, Delphine McCarty married a 35-year-old widower, Lopez, on June 11th of 1800. Several months following the marriage, Lopez received a notice on January 7th of 1801. In this letter, he was reprimanded for marrying Delphine without the permission of the Spanish crown. He was relieved of his duties and ordered to return to Spain with further repercussions to be dealt with. It's noted that Lopez was likely singled out, as there were many other Spaniard men that did the same thing as him well before him. However, it may have been something more than just an unapproved wedding. There was a power struggle with the previous intendant, Juan Virtue Morales, who was noted as being a contentious, insufferable bastard who was a scandal mongraler who never had a good word to say about anybody. The communication between Morales and Lopez showed enmity.
That's so funny. So he just got singled out because the guy above him was an asshole that really didn't like him.
The guy before him was an asshole. He probably got fired from his job, and he was like, well, I'm still working for the crown, so let me just fuck up your life, dude.
Might as well, I suppose.
I don't know. I don't know what happened there.
No.
But these two obviously don't like each other, and Lopez would later learn his downfall was particularly orchestrated by Morales. So, in spring of 1802, Lopez left New Orleans for Havana on the schooner El Volador. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. The presence of a wife is not mentioned, but we can presume that Delphine was aboard as well. By mid-April of 1802, Lopez was writing his supervisors from Havana, pleading his case. By late July of 1802, Lopez was directed to travel to Barcelona on the merchant frigate ship Dolores, and he'd arrived sometime in late October. When he arrived and asked what he should do next, he was exiled to the Atlantic coastal town of San Sebastian, which is near the French border, and assigned to lower level clerical position work. So Lopez, from his new position, would continuously write letters to the Spanish officials to try to elicit sympathy for his plight. In these letters, he'd cited slander against himself and his first wife to set powerful enemies against him. He also noted that another high-ranking official, Luis du Urstrel, I'm so sorry if that was mispronounced, it was a mouthful, tried to seduce his new wife, Delphine, then spread rumors regarding his late wife to tarnish his character further. Now, while Lopez is exiled, Morales is reappointed as the intendant of New Orleans, and he served until the end of the Spanish colonial administration in November of 1803. He was also a very key player in the Louisiana Purchase. Delphine also was going out of her way to clear her husband's name. And there's a tale of Delphine meeting with Queen Maria Lucia to plead her husband's case. In response, it's said that the queen stared at her for a moment before stating, "Your petition, whatever it is granted. You are so beautiful."
That's wild.
You're
She's
pretty.
darling, whatever you want.
Whatever
She's
you
like, oh my
want.
god, you're like the... It's like, yeah, she just picks her up. She's like, you're so cute, look at those little cheeks. Okay, you can have whatever you want.
Which, mind you,
oh
like, she's
no.
only, like, what, 15, 16 at this time?
Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah, like, she got married at 14. Like, this is only, like, a year or two after
no.
that. She's only, like, 15, 16.
Oh no.
So, like I said,
Oh no.
there's a story regarding her meeting with the queen and her being like, "Oh yes, you could have whatever you want. You're just so pretty. Take it all." However, it's actually a lot more likely that Lopez's writings had finally paid off and the slander claims were looked into. Not to mention the Louisiana Purchase concluded the colonial Spanish administration in New Orleans. So by late 1804, Lopez was pardoned and appointed a position at the Spanish consul in New Orleans under the American administration. When he was traveling to his new post, however, his ship ran a sandbar and capsized near Havana. Rescue was dispatched from Havana on January 11th of 1805, and they reported that Lopez had died in the incident. It's likely that he drowned, sustained injuries, or had simply succumbed to shock. At the time of Lopez's passing, Delphine was pregnant with their child, and she was pretty far along in that pregnancy. So while she's awaiting his arrival in Havana, at the postal administrator's home, she's ready to pop. And in early 1805, Marie Delphine Francisca Biora Lopez y Angelo de Candelaria was born in Havana. She is referred to in most records and will be referred to further as Biora. And it's mentioned that Delphine named her after Lopez's first wife. In his death, Lopez left no property, and there was no indication that Delphine received any pension from the Spanish government. She likely returned to the McCarty plantation at around 18 years old with her daughter in the mid to late year of 1805. Delphine's mother passed away on February 26th of 1807. And on March 19th, 1807, Delphine's 20th birthday, she married a Frenchman native to the province of Nez-Bourdiers. Sounds like Chef Boyardee for some reason in my brain. Sorry if that was mispronounced.
Yay.
But maybe hors d'oeuvres. I feel like Joey from Friends, like
Yeah.
So she marries Jean-Paul Blanc, who was a 43-year-old widower. Now, Blanc was more than a match for the young Delphine, and he was a 180-degree turn from her last husband. He was described as a genius, well-educated, and an influential individual in the city. He was a ruthless wheeler-dealer merchant, slave trader, lawyer, banker, political intriguer, and a known associate of the pirates Jean and Pierre Lafitte.
So he does it all.
He does it all. All of it, man.
He does it all.
He does it all. He's a jack of all trades,
You
man.
need something? Just go to that guy.
Yeah, you go see Jean-Paul Blanc for that. Don't come to me with
He's
your
a
drama.
he's a slave trader. He's a banker.
What you need? You
He
need
does
money?
it all.
You go see Blanc for that. Stories also told of how Blanc was higher up in the importation of black ivory and other imported goods, which did not involve United States customs. Other stories told of how Blanc came to his money after he'd earned his distinction in the Battle of New Orleans. Regardless, though, by the time he'd married Delphine, he had privateering ships under his control. Which, privateering, if you guys don't know what that is, can mean a lot of things, but it's usually a fancy word for ARG pirates.
Like regular Pirates of the Caribbean pirates.
Like ARG pirates, ARG. Probably not that much.
Arg.
Like, we could probably go back a little bit. Let's take the hat and the peg leg away, but like put them in like some official looking clothing. Like, they're doing some stuff and they're going about their business like, yeah, I'm a privateer. I'm not stealing shit. Don't
They
worry
call
about
me. A privateer.
I have all legal goods on my
that's
ship.
my
Just
stuff.
don't look at the cocaine.
Just yeah. Don't look at my cocaine.
Don't look at my cocaine. Don't look at my heroin. Don't look at my opium.
Well, that stuff was legal back then, wasn't it?
For the most part. Honestly,
So I guess they could have looked at it.
the opium wars would have been
Back
going on
in
about
the
that time,
day.
wouldn't they? So that would have been something that would have been illegally traded into the United States, but I know that was more of a problem over in France and England. Regardless, though, Blanc was noted for having strong speaking skills and a very hot temper. It was also noted that Blanc was greatly disliked by the Native American population in the area, and they noted him as being a very dangerous man. Blanc arrived in New Orleans in 1803 during the Spanish separation, but stayed instead of returning to France after the Louisiana Purchase. Blanc arrived with Pierre Clement de Laust, and instead of returning home after the Louisiana Purchase with him, Blanc stayed. In 1805, the New Orleans Directory listed Blanc as living at 24 Rue Street, Louis, with two other men over the age of 16, as well as two slaves. In 1808, Blanc purchased a home at 409 Royal Street, which is now Ida Menhem's Antiques. In the event of Delphine's mother's death, she and Blanc would inherit nearly $30,850 in property, slaves, livestock, and much more, which would be valued at more than $2 million today. Delphine's father would proceed to sell 2 plantations and 53 slaves to his son Louis and son-in-law Blanc as co-owners. Another description comes from writings of Louis de Clout in 1814 to a representative of the King of Spain. He stated in his writings that Blanc was a clever and daring man with a persuasive tongue that could sway a crowd. Blanc is regarded as one of the persons financially interested in piracies or beatrice, which he openly protects.
Hey, so could you imagine being like a Nepo baby back in the day where it's like, oh, gee, Pop, a whole person?
Ugh,
It's so bad.
it is bad.
And $1,000, which was like $1,000,000 back in the day.
Jesus Christ. Just hands him like $100 bill. Go have fun, kid.
Go have fun, kid, and like just a person. And be like, and hold this person's hand.
Mm-hmm.
You own them now, and it's like, okay,
Thanks, Dad.
let's go play.
Do you like
person's
chess?
I don't want to play right now. They're like, too bad.
As a side note, in the 1800s, Lopez y Angelo had reopened slave trade, but by 1804, the American government had banned the importation of slaves into the United States, specifically the importation of slaves into New Orleans. As a result, people in the territory were buying any slaves they could get. Some other individuals, however, continued the illegal importation. Jean Blanc had two well-known associates, Pierre and Jean Lafitte, who were major slave importers with questionable provenance, described historically as smugglers, merchants of contraband, revolutionaries, spies, privateers, and at some times, pirates. Blanc's name appeared more than 350 times in slave schedules for both buying and selling. There is ample evidence that the two dealt with buying and selling of human merchandise both legally and illegally. From these trades, Blanc acquired small bits of slaves designated as brutes, meaning raw or uncivilized workers imported from Africa, which Blanc would resell each of them for around $550 each to local planters. The marriage between Blanc and Delphine was noted as being a thriving relationship, and during their time together, Delphine was a rising star in the Creole society. They had
This is so unhinged.
Right?
Like, just like, yeah, he's buying and selling and trading, and their relationship's actually going great. She's a very affluent figure, and you're like, history, wow.
Wow. Now you can see why I was like, I need to take a break from this. I can't look at this anymore.
Yeah, the shakers, movers, and producers of the 1800s. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, it's fucking wild, man. It is wild to say the least. So, during their time together, like I said, Delphine was a rising star in Creole society. They had the Royal Street residence, which was a grand mansion with 24-foot ceilings and a hideaway outside the city where the couple hosted balls and outings during their union. There is no indication that Delphine was aware of any of Blanc's illegal activities, which in that day and age I can understand. Like, men handled the business outside of the home, so outside of any additional slaves or two being added to their home, I honestly don't think she had a clue unless he was like venting to her, which most guys don't do that. That is definitely a girl thing to do. So, 10 years following the Battle of New Orleans, which Blanc played a part in, he died at the age of 50 years old on October 7th of 1815. There is no information regarding how he died, which leaves it up to interpretation, as he was involved with illegal affairs a lot of the time, and his death now left the 28-year-old Delphine a widow with 5 children. Bura, who was 11 years old, Pauline, who was 6 years old, Laurie, who was 3 years old, Gianna, who was a little over a year and a half old, and Pauline, who was only 6 months old at the time. So, With her second husband gone, it fell to Delphine to handle her husband's estates, properties, and slaves. So Delphine appeared before a parish court to declare that her late husband's success was encumbered with debt, that she would be renouncing the community property that existed between herself and Blanc to avoid seizure of her assets by his creditors. So Louisiana at this time allowed widows to exonerate themselves from their husband's debts. She'd later come back and repurchase the Blanc house for nearly $17,000, which included, by her request, the furniture, effects, and silverware that the two had purchased upon their marriage. She also asked to keep the slaves in payment for her matrimonial rights. So this is where we start to see some weird things happening with the slaves in Madame's care. So
that's when it all went wrong.
This is where there's a turning point. Something's going on here. So of the slaves kept, we have Arnett, who's 40 years old, a cook and a laundress. Genevieve, who's 35 years old. Helene, who was 29 years old with her daughter. Nancy, who was 20 years old, along with her sons Ben and Nicholas. Rosette, which her age wasn't listed, along with her son Jean, who was born in 1819. Suzette, 24 years old. She was a seamstress with her son Edward. Zoe, who was 16 years old and had no listed occupation. And Elisa, who was 15 years old, and she was Helene's daughter. Of the male slaves she kept, there was Bastian, who was 22 years old, a carpenter, coach driver, and domestic slave. George, who was 60 years old and was the gardener. Francios, who did not have an age listed, but is simply referred to in most texts or tellings of the story as the old one or the old hunchback. There's Jean-Baptiste, who is 25 years old, and he is the shoemaker. There is Lindor, who is 50 years old and is the cook. There's Theodore, who is 30 years old and a cooper and sar. And then there's Tom, who is 50 years old, and he is a gardener. Of the following slaves, some would die or be freed before 1928. Of the females, Genevieve died in 1819. Elisa died or was sold in 1816, but she's usually listed as unaccounted for. Zoe died in 1820. Marie Francios died or was sold in 1823. However, in some records, she is simply unaccounted for. And then Suzette was sold in 1828. Of the male slaves, Francios probably died in 1823. Ben, Nancy's son, was sold in 1828. Jean, Rosette's son, died in 1823. Edouard, Suzette's son, was sold in 1828. Now, I do want to point out here that these are not only the slaves in Delphine's care at the time. These are just the ones that she repurchased from Blanc after his death. And as we progress through the story, many will be unaccounted for after the events of 1834. It is in my belief that there are more that were sold or dead at this time than legislators account for. Now, Delphine's father died October 21st of 1824, and the original McCarty plantation was split between Delphine and Louis, her brother. Delphine's father also left money to his daughter Emisie, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. Or it's probably MZ. Yeah. MZ. Who was born a free woman of color from Sophie Monstet. At the time of her father's death, MZ was only 9 years old and was to receive $5,000 and 2 slaves of her own. The request was granted by her mother. The McCarty holdings lay between the Montreal and Oliver plantations after everything is settled. So, looking at the time, because that was something to run through. I'm going to pause here because I'm already at 73 minutes and I got to do edits. But we have one more detrimental figure to cover that plays a part in the crime, regardless of what certain legends like to say or think. So when we come back in part 2, we will cover the marriage of Leonard Louis Nicolas Lalaurie. And then we'll probably get into the crime as well.
Yay.
How we feeling, Sarah?
This is why I don't like to read books from the 1800s.
No, like, I can understand that. Like, I won't lie to you. The Carolyn Long book is probably the best source to go to for this. She has everything listed out in Chicago reference format. She really did the research. And I gotta thank her. I wish I started with that book first because there's so many different accounts of what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if there's slang or incidental slurs, I do apologize. That is not my intent. And also, when it comes to pronunciations, it's not my intent to to butcher that. I don't speak French. I barely speak English.
Well, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's just a part of our history, and I feel like we should bring it up, because if you don't bring it up, then nobody knows. Yeah. And nobody gets to experience the horror that it was and be like, oh, well, we should do better as a society.
Oh, yeah. Nope. There's our first part of Miss Delphine Lalaurie, Madame Lalaurie. I hope you guys are excited. I hope my mispronunciations didn't throw you off. I hope you made it to the last of this episode. I'll probably go back through as I edit and try to correct some of those mispronunciations so my mom doesn't have my head when she gets back. Because she do speak French. I don't.
That's so funny.
Yep. But anyways, yeah, that's all I got for you. So I'll see you probably in 24 hours is when the next episode should drop. Hopefully. That's the plan, Stan. I don't know if it's going to come true, but that's my hope and that's my wish. And I'll see you guys next time.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you again for listening to Spattered. Please make sure to follow the show on Facebook and Instagram at Spattered Podcast and on X at Spattered Pod. If you're enjoying the show, make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts from. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be notified when the show goes live or drops a video. As always, if you have a case request, any questions, or are interested in sponsoring the show, please email me at spatteredpodcast@gmail.com. Spattered is a true crime podcast hosted by Caitlin Gardner and Sarah Ray. The research and edits for this episode were done by Caitlin Gardner. All the music for the show was done by Lucio Cardenas. We'll see you next time. Stay safe out there. And remember, the truth is always in the blood.